Jonathan Majors is currently the talk of the town and for all the wrong reasons. Thanks to his domestic dispute with his then partner, he has essentially lost all public favor that he cultivated. He's been blacklisted and is no longer predicted to become one of the next great actors in Hollywood. And the thing that probably stings him the most, he's lost the role of the main antagonist for the future slate of Marvel films. Now, say what you want about Marvel, but to lose a bag that hefty is going to hurt no matter who you are, and it shows on Majors' face that he isn't taking it well. Now, because he landed himself in this predicament due to no one else's fault but his own, you'd be hard-pressed to feel bad for him. This is technically getting off lightly for what he was accused of doing, but he himself would argue differently. He thinks that he's due for immediate forgiveness, and even tried to compare himself to a fellow Marvel superstar, Robert Downey Jr., because it's been confirmed that RDJ is going to be replacing Majors as the main antagonist for the future slate of Marvel films with the character Dr. Doom. Now, it is true that Robert Downey Jr. had a troubled past as a drug addict, but the comparison between the two cases falls flat when you consider the following. For one, Robert Downey Jr. had not harmed anyone aside from himself. Yes, in doing so, he may have offended those around him, those that knew him, those that wanted to do business with him, but he didn't harm another individual. Mr. Majors, it's important that you understand that not only did you harm your public image, you harmed another individual. And secondly, Robert Downey Jr. was blacklisted for a very long time. People didn't want to work with him. People didn't want to be associated with him. However, he didn't allow that to keep him down. He decided to put in the work and prove that not only he was a changed individual, but also that he was a phenomenal actor. He pulled this off by doing small films and worked his way up the ladder. He wasn't even a first choice when it came to the character Iron Man, and even then, no one could have predicted that the performance would snowball into the MCU being the film juggernaut that it is today. Now, with that being said, and looking at RDJ's past, we are able to see a potential path of redemption for Mr. Majors. But this comes with very, very strict stipulations. Number one, it is important that you, Jonathan Majors, acknowledge your wrongdoing and the fact that you put yourself in this position. Now, I don't know Mr. Majors personally, but based off of his public appearances and his interviews and statements that he's made about the situation with his former partner, he thinks that he's not really at fault. He did admit fault, but it wasn't really the fault that he actually did anything wrong. It was more, he thinks that he put himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's what led to him being blamed for all of this nonsense. No, you put your hands on that woman and you landed yourself in this situation, and you need to accept that. You need to understand that this is your fault. No one else is to blame. You're not some sort of sacrifice so that Hollywood elites can live longer lives. You weren't made an example of. You just happen to be a piece of shit. However, even though it's very, very difficult for human beings to change, that doesn't mean that they can't. This doesn't have to be the end of you, Mr. Majors. You can look inside yourself and say what you did was wrong. The behavior that you perpetuated before was wrong. Putting your hands on that woman was wrong. And when you finally acknowledge that, you can move forward and begin the journey of becoming a better person. And once you're on that path, you need to understand that not everyone will be willing to forgive you, and they don't owe you that. People make mistakes, sure, but it's up to the person in fault to make up for it, and you're also not entitled to any form of forgiveness. Once you're willing to accept that, you'll be able to work your way back into the good graces of those that are willing to give you a second chance. Because in spite of all this, Jonathan Majors is an incredible actor. Now, you may not be able to acquire the same roles that you had before, but there's still going to be plenty of opportunities for you to show off your acting ability. You also need to show that you are sincerely, and I mean sincerely, changed as an individual, and you're no longer a terrible person. Then the people that are willing to forgive you will be willing to enjoy the product that you put out, and that could also potentially put you back in the good graces of Hollywood, because at the end of the day, all they care about is money. And if people are willing to forgive you and are willing to pay money to see you on the big screen, that's really all it would take for you to get back in their good graces. Now, I'm saying all of this because I actually would like to see this path happen. We see far too many times that someone does something that's heinous, and instead of reconciling with themselves and attempting to change, instead of actually acknowledging this as a low point in them as a person and growing from the situation, they double down on it. They victimize themselves and say that they were misjudged or taken out of context, and that people that just don't understand what's really going on. I'm not a fan of that. I want people to atone for the things that they've done, and I want people to actively change. That way we prevent more shitty people from popping up. That way it shows that redemption is in fact possible. That yes, you may have been a terrible person in the past, but you can change. You can come out of it a better person. So Mr. Majors, Johnny, if I may, you have a lot of time on your hands currently. If you so happen to be one of the 20 people that view this video, take my advice. You don't have to continue to be a terrible person and create more victims. Take the path least traveled and evolve as a person. For your sake, and for the sake of that little acting career of yours. Otherwise, prepare to be crowned the king of Tubi, because that's about as big as you'll get. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, subscribe.